The social cognitive domain theory states that there are different domains of social knowledge and reasoning. There's moral, social, and personal. The social conventional reasoning focuses on conventional rules that are established by social consensus and convention. These rules exist to control behavior and maintain the social system. The rules by themselves are arbitrary, so like raising your hand to speak in class. It's arbitrary, but there are going to be sanctions if you violate these rules. These are the social conventional rules. In contrast, the moral reasoning focuses on ethical issues and the rules of morality. So lying, cheating, stealing, hurting people. Those are moral rules. It's not just a social convention. Recently, a distinction has been made between moral conventional issues and personal issues, which are more likely subject to personal discretion. On moral development and parenting, research reveals siblings, peers, and parents contribute to a child's moral development. Parent-child relationships introduce children to the mutual obligations of close relationships. We've talked a little bit about this before. Secure attachment may actually play an important role in this. So they're going to be more cooperative. If they have a better attachment, they're going to, play nicer with other people. They're going to cooperate better. Bad attachments, maybe not so much, maybe more antisocial, maybe, going along with this chapter, less moral. So attachment it's important in a whole bunch of areas, but it's even important in the development of your morality. The book also talks about parental discipline here in this area, and they talk about 3 different techniques that are used for discipline. The first one is love withdraw, and in this one, a parent withholds attention or love, such as refusing to talk to a child. I feel this one's cruel, so that's my opinion. In power assertion, a parent attempts to gain control over the child or the child's resources, such as spanking or removing privileges. So there's that encompasses a lot of things. There's a difference between maybe taking away a video game and spanking, according to some researchers. But they're all under this idea of power assertion. You're trying to assert control over the child. In the final one, and this is the one that the book the authors prefer, in induction, a parent uses reasoning and explains how the child's actions are likely to affect other people. Don't hit him. He was just trying to help, or trying to maybe use a little bit of empathy. When you do this to this person, it makes them feel like this. Do you like to feel like this? That would be a form of induction. And so yes, child developmentalists, they recommend induction, focusing on the consequences for other people. It's not just about the child's shortcomings. Again, this induction has a focus on other people. Again, have an empathetic response. Love withdrawal and power assertion are highly upsetting for the kid, especially if there's not a rationale behind it. If you're just like, I'm taking your video games, or here's a spanking, but you don't actually explain why you're doing it, they're not going to understand what's happening. They're just going to understand that you're being, what in their perception, being mean to them. So for the kid to learn, you at least need to tell them what they've done wrong. You have to explain why their behavior was undesirable. Also, the book talks about an important parenting strategy is to proactively avert potential misbehavior before it takes place. And so if you see a kid is about ready to do something you don't like, you don't want to wait and let them do it. You want to try to get them to do something else. So with younger children, that means diversion. So you're trying to get their mind off whatever they're trying to do and get them onto something else. With older children, because they have more, cognitive and social development, you might be able to talk more about values and be like, don't do this because of this reason. You might be able to use reasoning skills with them compared to younger children where you just have to kind of move them on to something else. The book also talks about moral development and schools. The first thing they talk about is the hidden curriculum. And so this is conveyed by the moral atmosphere that's part of every school. So they might not come right out and say that our school has these moral standards, but it's part of this kind of behind the scenes hidden curriculum. It is created by the school, the classroom rules, the orientation of the teachers and the administrators, the texts that they use. Character education is more of a direct educational approach that involves teaching a student's basic, what they call moral literacy. So this is way more direct than that hidden curriculum. According to the textbook authors, every school should have an explicit moral code that is clearly communicated to the students. And if there are any violations of those codes, that they should be met with sanctions. You shouldn't just have rules, but then not actually do anything about it. They talk a little bit too about a cognitive moral education. This is education based on the belief that students should learn to value things like democracy and justice. And then that by learning about those things, their moral reasoning will develop. We talked about Kohlberg earlier. He was the basis for a lot of this cognitive moral educational approaches, the idea of justice and democracy, things of this nature, that stage 5 and 6, those type of things. For this cognitive moral education, in a typical program, moral issues are discussed in a semester-long course to discuss moral issues. So, think back. There's an age discrepancy between me and most people that are listening to this. When I think back on my schoolwork in like middle school and high school, we definitely did not have a class specifically just for morals. I did come from a small town. I don't know if that makes a difference, but in my mind, I cannot imagine going back to my school, however many years ago it was, and them having a class on morals. It just seems an alien concept to me. It would have been neat. It's just hard for me to visualize my school back then doing that. And so I think that's probably, for a lot of schools, for a lot of you probably I can't even imagine my school having a class on morals. If you did have one, I would love to hear more about it. The book also talks about service learning at this point, and so this is a form of education that promotes social responsibility and service to the community. The goal is for adolescents to become less self-centered and more strongly motivated to help other people. The benefits include higher grades, increased goal setting, higher self-esteem, an enhanced sense of empowerment, and an increased likelihood for volunteering in the future. So there's a lot of really good benefits from doing service learning. And I'm sure a lot of you did do some service learning. I know some people have to do so much to actually graduate high school. That being said, the engagement in this service learning, for it to be most effective, should be voluntary for it to have lasting effects. Also, for schools and moral development, one important moral educational concern is students and cheating. They ask students why do they cheat, and among the reasons that they're given are pressures to get high grades, compressed schedules, poor teaching, and lack of interest. And the context, and we talked about this earlier, affects whether or not a student will cheat. It depends on, there might be a class that's like, I don't like this professor, I'm going to cheat in their class. But there may be a class that you're in with a professor, it's like, I respect this professor, I'm not going to cheat in this class. I mean, that's possible for some people. The strategies for decreasing cheating include making students are aware of what constitutes cheating and emphasizing academic integrity. Okay, so that's it for the schools part. On the next set of slides, we'll get into pro-social behavior. Pro-social and antisocial behavior.